So, a somewhat less than fun fact is that if the car was a vinyl roof car from the factory, Chrysler deemed it a cost-saving exercise not to bother painting the car under the vinyl. As you can imagine, over the years, vinyl gets hard, dries out, moisture gets underneath it, and moisture and bare metal equals rust. This car's actually been, I want to say patched, but yeah, it's been patched 11 times in the past. This car won't have a vinyl roof by the time I'm finished, which means that all of the horrible, nasty patches that you see here will have to be done. Will have to be removed. Now, the easiest way to do that is just a full reskin. I have a skin from AMD on the way, should be arriving in the UK in the next week or two. But in the meantime, I'm going to work on getting this top skin off, separated from the drip rails because they're good. And then basically getting access to the structure underneath, so whilst the skin is off, I can rust proof and zinc prime and epoxy prime everything that I can't get access to once the roof skin is on. Now I'm going to drill out the spot welds along here. You can see I've done a few along the front here, but this entire seam along here and along the back needs to be taken care of. All in all, I'd wager there's a good 200 spot welds in total, but it needs to be done. So I've marked up where I'm going to cut. Let's get the grinder out. Now if you look along the underside of the roof skin, you can see just how bad and how porous the skin is because of the amount of rust. And literally all the previous guys that have worked on this car have done is quite literally plated over the top and just left it. I don't know if the car was a driver with these repairs on, or if they just slapped another vinyl skin roof over the top. I would probably hazard a guess and say they just drove it, but as you can see, this is not going to stand. So if you're doing a roof skin repair yourself or a removal, along the drip rails here, you can see where I've already pre-drilled this side and also marked up on the actual drip rails themselves where the spot welds already are. Now you'll have to go down both sides. The other side will be exactly the same. There will also be spot welds along the front flange here where the windshield meets the roof, and also along the back as well. I've marked here with a Sharpie because I'm going to cut along these lines with a grinder. That way then, that when it comes to removing this little strip of metal, it's so much easier because I'm not trying to remove the skin as a whole. I'm taking it out section by section, which means that I'm not going to put so much stress on the surrounding areas. This A-post is good, so it's going to stay as is, so I don't want to put any damage into that whatsoever. It's like a jungle gym for adults. One with lots of sharp edges. So, now I have a more comfortable seating position. You can see this front edge here. This is what I'm going to take out. And you can see just how extensive the patchwork was. I mean, it is hefty, and I mean this is triple laid. That's original metal. One patch was put here and then another patch over that one, so good job whoever did this. You can see now where I've trimmed all the way along the side here. I don't know what they use to seal this, but it smells like budget barbecue, old body filler, and ass. Not a pleasant combo. Let's see what we have. And here we have one slightly heavier than it should be, roof skin. But yeah. This was Swiss cheese. Okay, so full disclosure. One of the reasons for me making this channel is because I want to show you guys how somebody who doesn't have a whole bunch of shop experience or industry experience in terms of restoration can go about doing something like this on your driveway or in a garage, preferably in a garage. I have to use a big gazebo. You can see here, this is 6 by 3 meters. The charger is 5.5 meters long almost. My garage is only 4.5 meters deep, and that's full of a Mustang project anyway. More on that another time. But being somebody who doesn't have a ton of experience, there are times where I make mistakes. Today is one of those times. Whilst I was removing the roof skin, obviously cutting along the seam that I'd cut out here, or marked out here, sorry, I should say. Whilst cutting it out, you can actually see where I've gone through the panel underneath, so therefore I've weakened this entire panel here. Now this isn't the end of the world, because I will go back through with my grinder, grind it first to clear the cuts up, but then I'll go back through with my welder, and then by the time I've ground the welds back, you'll never know it's been done. But more importantly, I think it's to try and emphasize the fact that you'll see a lot on these car shows and a lot of these restoration shows and YouTube channels and stuff like that, where people will cherry pick the moments that they have recorded in order to show you guys the best of their possible skills. People mess up. It's human nature. The important thing is gaining the knowledge and the experience in order to know how to put it right. I constantly push myself into new areas that I'm not comfortable with. I've never done a roof skin before, certainly not on a charger. I've never recorded before, which is why there's always constant mess ups with this as well. I've switched to holding with my hand because the DJI Osmo Pocket, whatever thing you want to call it, gimbal thing is just a pain in the butt to use, and always ends up doing sort of random stuff that I don't want it to do. Mistakes happen. Everybody makes mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're not pushing yourself far enough or out of your comfort zone, and that's where you truly grow. So yeah, I mean, long story short, I kind of messed up here. I can put it right, so now I'm going to. So this on the angle grinder. It's perfect for getting along here, and you can see now I've removed the skin, or what was left of the skin. Now that I've removed what was left of the flange that was holding the skin to the roof rail along the drip lines, you can see just how clean it is down in here. I've cleaned either side of where I'm going to weld, so I can make it nice and clean, and there's going to be no contamination or anything like that. And by the time you next see this, it'll be welded and ground back, looking as good as new. I mean, none of this will get seen once the roof skin is on, but I know it's there, and I know that that isn't right. So I'm going to make it right. So you can see pretty much where I've welded. It's got distancing and gap in my welds so it doesn't distort the panel too much. Although I'm not really worried about that because it's not, well, it's quite a structural part, it's quite thick, and the amount of heat that that's putting on the welds isn't too major. Obviously these will all get ground back, but just to show you, I'm not afraid of showing off what I do. Yes, I know I'm pulling the welds, but I was getting a better result with pulling it rather than pushing the welds. So, as you can see along here, by the time it's all ground back, you'll never know it's done. A pretty long video this week, simply because I wanted to show the intricacies of doing something like removing a roof skin from the car. It is by no means an easy task. Mistakes were made, they were remedied. But the important thing that I want to try to get across with something like this, and why I showed the mistakes that were made, is that it is important to get stuck in. It's very easy to be overwhelmed and bogged down by the desire to be perfect every time, to not want to make mistakes. At the end of the day, these projects are hugely complex and complicated. There are many components that will ultimately suffer some sort of hurdle or stump. I have many projects in the past myself that I haven't finished because at the time I was in a mindset of trying to get things perfect every time. Ultimately, it's not possible, so the projects fell by the wayside. Fortunately for the Charger is I am no longer in that kind of mindset and haven't been for a long time because I've managed to train myself out of that. The fact that the Charger is as good as it is helps. There is very little work required on that car to get it back to a solid shell, which is hopefully why you should see in the coming videos that will happen very quickly. The roof skin that I have ordered is on the way from the US, or it's currently in Rotterdam. Because of the UK port fiasco, there are millions of containers in UK ports which are backlogged. The arrival date for mine has been pushed back 9 times a current count. It should be in on Christmas Day. We'll see if that happens. If it does, then I can collect shortly thereafter. The more eagle-eyed viewers amongst you might have noticed that the recorder on the passenger side was already on the car as well. That was in fact the first piece that I fitted to the car, and whilst I did that I was not really comfortable with using the camera, didn't really capture great footage, so decided that when it comes to showing the recorders, because the driver's side is the same, I'll use the footage from that instead. I've literally just yesterday fitted the driver's side quarter as a trial fit, so the footage for that will follow shortly. I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm going to keep it nice and short, but the video itself is long enough. So all that's left for me to do for this year as well is happy holidays from me and mine to you and yours, and hopefully I will see you in the new year. Take care.